Hey guys, so today I am going to be doing my flawless foundation routine for eczema. As you can see, my eczema is gone. You cannot even tell that it's there, thank God. So yeah, I really hope this is helpful for anybody who has eczema. I'm going to be sharing my favorite products that I like to use, both drugstore and high-end, and show you how I like to apply it, the ways I like to apply it, and just some tips and tricks that I have learned from dealing with eczema and trying to cover it up with makeup for, I think, 3 years at this point. Yeah, about 2.5 to 3 years at this point. So yeah, this doesn't just have to be for anybody with eczema. This can also be for somebody with dry skin, if you have really dry skin because it's winter right now, or if maybe you had a reaction to a product and your skin is all kind of like flaky and dried out, or just somebody who does not like to wear a full face of foundation and a lot of products but wants a very flawless, kind of like no filter complexion. I totally get it. So yeah, these are all the tips and tricks that I have learned in doing foundation and trying to cover up my irritated alligator skin. And yeah, I'm sorry if you can hear the fan, by the way, in my room, so it can be a little bit distracting. I will try my best to edit out that noise, but yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this foundation routine. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a minute with no face makeup on. Alright, see ya! Okay, so I am aware I look crazy right now because the only thing I have on is my eyeshadow, but this is not about how I look right now. This is about covering up your eczema and just looking flawless. So we're going to start off, obviously, with the face. It's a foundation routine. I do not prime my face with an actual face primer on a daily basis. I usually just like to use a really good moisturizer, but there are primers that I do really love. In my primer collection, I have 3 primers that I personally like to use when I have my eczema, just depending on what I go for. If I don't necessarily need something as hydrating, or I want something that's just plain illuminating that'll just distract away from the flakiness, I like to use the Physicians Formula Spotlight Primer because it's not super duper hydrating, but it will distract away from any of the flakiness that I have because it's just plain illuminating. But if I do need a hydrating primer that is illuminating, then I will go for the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. This is one of my favorite primers, like, of all time. And then if I want something like that's maybe because today I want to go for a little bit more of a matte type of look and I don't want anything illuminating, I just want to be hydrated, I really like the Too Faced Hangover Primer. So yeah, but other times I will just use a plain moisturizer from the drugstore. I love the Burt's Bees skincare, and for a high-end option, I love the Tarte skincare. The Tarte skincare is like my favorite in general, but I know not everybody can afford it because it's like $50 for one product, and yeah, but it is better, but I think that's also reflected within the price. So yeah, today I am going to use a primer just to show you. I think I'm going to go for the Physicians Formula one just because then you guys can have a drugstore alternative. So I'm using the Physicians Formula Spotlight Primer today to show you a drugstore alternative. I need about like 2 pumps of this. It looks like this. It just kind of comes out. You don't need a lot of this. I like to warm it up on my finger. I can't speak. I'm sorry. I like to take this on my fingertips. I'm sorry. I'm looking in the mirror. That's why I'm turning my face this way. And just rub it into the skin, and you can see it just gives a really beautiful glow. Now for foundation. If you are struggling with eczema, I very highly recommend going in with a dewy, hydrating foundation. Even if you don't want to be super duper dewy or anything, that's okay because you can go in with a mattifying powder. But as far as a cream product goes, if you use a matte one, it's more likely going to have silicone bases in it, which can irritate your skin even more. I have had quite bad reactions to mattifying foundations because of the silicone bases. There are only 2 mattifying foundations on the market in my experience that I have found that I can actually use, which is the LA Girl Pro Matte Foundation and the ColourPop No Stick. No. and the ColourPop No Filter Stick Foundation. Other than that, I have to use a dewy, hydrating foundation or else it's not going to end up well for me. If you want to be more matte, go in with a hydrating foundation and then just powder the face with a mattifying powder, or just take a loose powder on a damp sponge and press that into the skin, which will also help give a very airbrushed look onto the face. But I'm going to do what I personally like to do and what I think looks best. My favorite foundation to use is actually a drugstore foundation, and it's Physicians Formula. I really like Physicians Formula because I think their ingredients are the most skin safe at the drugstore, because everything is allergen free, gluten free, vegan formulas, things like that. It's been tested by dermatologists, so I really do trust Physicians Formula when it comes to not skincare, but skin products, because I feel like theirs are the safest to go for that kind of look. So I'm going to use the Healthy Foundation. I like that it comes in like this little doe foot applicator, and I just like to do a couple of lines here. You can see probably I have a little bit there and a little bit there, and I also have quite a big mark there. I feel like the lighting really washes it out, but when you look at it in person and I have no makeup on, it's there. So I just do some lines on my cheeks, my nose, my chin, everywhere. I like to take a damp sponge. This is actually, you can use a beauty blender, a cheaper makeup sponge. This is just a cheaper one I found at Walmart. You can use whatever you want. You can use a brush. I just recommend, if you are going to use something, to use it wet. So spray it with, if you're not cruelty free, go in with like some MAC Fix Plus, a dewy setting spray, anything to make it damp. I just wet my sponge with water because it'll really soak up any excess product, in case you're like me and can get a little bit heavy-handed with your foundation and concealer. And also doing this, water will mix in with the foundation, so it'll lay nicer onto the skin and look a little bit less drying, and yeah, it'll blend out easier. So I'm just going to blend this out with my damp sponge and get it everywhere. Now, I suggest, if you need to, go in with a second layer just over any areas where you need to cover up. So for me, I find it's always here. And something I found looks better is I actually like to just do, if I need to cover up my eczema, go over it with the foundation rather than a concealer. So right here, and right here, I prefer to cover it with foundation because foundation has less makeup in it than concealer does. Concealer has more makeup, so it can look a little bit more cakey around those areas. So I find using foundation, if I just layer it in those areas, it can really cover up that mark that I have, rather than like going in with concealer, which has more makeup, which will be more drying, and then looking thick and crepey. So now we're going to go in with concealer. I said earlier, I like to cover up with the foundation because it looks lighter on the skin rather than concealer. But I am going to put some underneath my eyes because I do have some purple tones underneath of my eyes. So I like the NYX HD concealer, but today I'm going to use the ColourPop No Filter concealer. And it is initially going to look way too light. You're going to be like, Elizabeth, what are you doing? You need to calm down. But this concealer does oxidize, so it dries darker than what it'll look like on my face. So this is literally the only concealer that I put on. Again, blend it out with that damp sponge or brush, spraying it again. When you go in again, make sure to spray, if you're using a brush, spray it again, because it'll help everything to settle into the skin rather than laying on top of it and looking dry and thick and crepey. Okay, now that we're basically almost done, what I like to do sometimes is go over it with my finger and just blend it out, because the warmth of your finger will help blend everything out and make it really like stay on the skin, and also it will pick up any excess and can get in any areas that your beauty blender may have missed. As you can see, my under eye is a lot more blended out. So now we're just going to set that area with powder. I really recommend not setting your entire face with powder. Only set any area where your makeup can crease, wear off a little bit, or anything that needs extra coverage if you're using a coverage powder. I personally like to use more translucent powders if I'm using it on my face, because I just find it is the less kind of like cakey on the skin, rather than a coverage powder which has more makeup in it and can really look thick and drying on the skin. But something I like to do actually is just take my highlighting powders. I'm using this e.l.f. contour palette. It doesn't have like a light or like a dark, it just says assorted. Reading it off the back, it just has like this tiny little sticker there, but it looks like this. So I like to mix the white shade and the banana shade and press it underneath of the eyes. I like to use more of like a loose kind of angled brush. I don't even know where this brush is from. I'm sorry, I would tell you if I knew, but I don't. So I'm mixing those two shades together, and really make sure that you tap off the brush, because you want to start off with a light amount of powder and then build up, because again, you don't want to make it too much and then not know how to get rid of it. It's much easier to build up than take away. Always start off in dabbing motions, because if you rub, you can take away the product, it can move, and it's not going to look pretty if you do that, because it'll just smudge everywhere and rub off of certain areas. So just dab, and doing this will also press the product into the skin and make it last much longer. And the only other area that I like to set underneath of my eye and like right here on my nose is right here on my smile lines, because I talk a lot, I make a lot of facial expressions, so it creases. Some other powders that I really like are the NYX Stay Matte Not Flat powder. I use this in my winter makeup tutorial, and I love this powder because even though it's matte, it has a little bit of something in it, so it doesn't look super drying on the skin. It's affordable. I really like more affordable powders. I don't know why. I just feel like the drugstore has really stepped up their game when it comes to face products, because normally I would go for like a high-end option, but that's like really expensive. Like a powder's like $40 and a foundation's $50. I don't want to spend that much money, especially if I'm going to run out of it soon. That's like a lot of money, so I like this NYX one. If you are looking for something that is more mattifying, the Essence Color Correcting Powder is another really good option. You can see I've hit pan like right there because it is a really, really good alternative. But I just used those highlighting powders. You can use other highlighting powders that you like. Kat Von D, the Shade Light palette, has a really good highlighting powder. The Anastasia Contour Kit, the NYX Contour Kit from the drugstore, and the e.l.f. one that I just used are really good options. So we're basically almost done with the entire face, but later I'm going to show you something. We're going to finish off the rest of our makeup, like brows, eyes, blush, bronzer, highlight, everything, and I'm going to show you the most important part, the part that you cannot skip, in my opinion. But we're going to do that after the rest of the face, and yeah, so give me a minute to finish off my makeup, and I'll be right back, okay? Okay, so now that we have the rest of the face done, we don't look crazy anymore now that we're basically done. So, the most important step is putting on a setting spray. Now, setting spray is going to differ for everybody, because some people really like rose water setting sprays, but other people can have a reaction to that because maybe the fragrance irritates their skin. You really have to find something that you like. For instance, I really like the Morphe setting spray on days where I do not have eczema, because the fragrance in it really irritates my skin. I also, if I want to be matte, I like the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray, but my favorite one ever, like, this is literally the best setting spray I have ever used in my life. Tarte Rainforest of the Sea. This, it has a scent in it, but there's no like artificial fragrance. It's like a kind of a citrus minty smell, because it has like it has orange peel oil in it. It has like coconut oil in it, which is okay. It doesn't clog my pores. It has flower extract, algae extract, flower extract, like it has seawater extract, like, oh, I love the setting spray so much. So I'm actually going to go in with this one today because I'm feeling very bronzy. I feel like I have like this bronze goddess look going on right now, so I'm going to use that because it makes me more glowy. I'm going to use up my sample one though. I don't have much left of it, but I'm going to use it. I'm not shy with this, by the way, either, so prepare yourself. Oh, it's out. Damn it! Fan yourself off. For me personally, I feel like I always need to spray down the lower half of my face because the lower half of my face is where my eczema is. So that's the part I always go over twice with setting spray. But it's kind of like semi-wet, semi-damp. I like to just go over the areas with a damp sponge. This is the same one that we used before. You can use whatever one that you want. Does not matter. And this is the finished foundation routine. I really hope that you liked this. Please do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you later in my next video. Bye!